Welcome to another Power BI tutorial. In this tutorial, we will create a dashboard for risk management professionals. We have a data of capital adequacy ratio, which is calculated by dividing total capital by total risk-weighted assets. Total capital is the sum of Tier 1 capital and Tier 2 capital. Whereas, total risk-weighted assets include credit, operational, and market risk-weighted assets. Risk-weighted assets are the sum product of all assets and their risk weights. For example, let's say you have two assets, cash and unsecured loans. These are your total assets. However, when it comes to risk, cash is the most secured asset, carrying negligible risk, therefore it is given 0% risk weight. Unsecured loans, on the other hand, carry 100% risk, therefore their risk weight is 100%. Risk-weighted assets will be calculated by multiplying each asset with their risk weight. And now you have your total assets and your risk-weighted assets. These risk-weighted assets are then used to calculate the capital adequacy ratio, to ensure that institutions have sufficient capital to absorb potential losses. The calculations are mostly used in banks and financial institutions. Now, let's import this data into the Power BI desktop using Get Data. Let's select this table and load it into our data pane. Once the data is loaded into the data pane, we can use its fields to create visuals in our report. First of all, we need to go to the table view and add another column. Total risk-weighted assets are already calculated, but total capital is not. Therefore, we will sum Tier 1 capital and Tier 2 capital into a new column named Total Capital. Now we can go back to our report view and create our dashboard. Now, first we will add a card visual to display the latest value of capital adequacy ratio. To do that, we will add capital adequacy ratio to the card visual. This displays the sum of capital adequacy ratio of all years. Whereas we need the latest value. To get that, we need to filter the visual by top 1 year. And apply the filter. This will display the latest capital adequacy ratio in the card visual. Now let's turn on visual borders for this card visual. Make a copy of this card visual and place it here. Now replace the capital adequacy ratio field with the total risk-weighted assets field. Now we need another copy of this visual to display the latest total capital value. To do that, we will replace the risk-weighted assets field with total capital field. Now, let's add a line chart. And add capital adequacy ratio to the y-axis and year to the x-axis. Then place the visual here and turn on its visual borders. Now, make a copy of this chart and place it here, and replace the capital adequacy ratio with total risk-weighted assets to display risk-weighted assets by year. Copy this chart and paste it here, and change it to a bar chart. Now, replace the y-axis with Tier 1 capital and Tier 2 capital to display total capital by year. Copy this visual and paste it here. And replace the y-axis with credit risk-weighted assets, market risk-weighted assets, and operational risk-weighted assets. Now, let's copy this chart and paste it here, and change it into a pie chart. And remove year from legend. To display the composition of capital in the latest year, we need to add year to filters. And then, using the top N filter type, we will select the top year. And then click on the Apply Filter button to display the latest year data only. We will make a copy of this chart and add the credit risk-weighted assets, market risk-weighted assets, and operational risk-weighted assets to display their latest year information. Now, let's resize these card visuals in symmetrical size. And finally, let's add a logo and title to our dashboard. You can use pictures in your dashboard to make them more appealing. And our risk management dashboard of capital adequacy ratio is now complete. And with this, we end our tutorial. See you in our next tutorial. Till then, Have a nice day.